Hi, my name's Jeff and I'm from Checkweight Mobile Caravan Weighing. Welcome to today's webinar on weight distribution hitches, or as they commonly refer to it, WDH. Now let's get stuck straight into this webinar. Firstly, I would like to say about weight distribution hitches that they're probably one of the most commonly argued, and I use the word argue, discussed on Facebook groups. So if you want 100 or 200 comments, just ask whether you should use a weight distribution hitch. The reason I'm doing this webinar is because I see a lot of people who use them who don't need them. I see people that need them and don't use them. I also see a lot of people who have been sold a weight distribution hitch to solve a problem that could have been solved otherwise. So my goal with this webinar is to give you a little bit of information from my perspective, and my perspective is weighing caravans and seeing how weight has affected the vehicle and the caravan, and whether a weight distribution hitch actually helped or hindered that process. I'm not an expert on weight distribution hitches. I've actually never towed with a weight distribution hitch, so I'm not here to sell you one. I'm not here to recommend you have one. And I think that's a bit of a problem on Facebook and YouTube, is that people who sell weight distribution hitches tell you that you need one. So my aim today is just purely to give you some information so that you can make a better informed decision. Not everybody will like what I say, but that's okay. So I've called this weight distribution hitches the good, the bad, and the myths. So who are we? So Checkweight is a mobile caravan weighing business based in Port Stephens in New South Wales, near Newcastle. We travel from Gosford to Port Macquarie and out to Muswellbrook and Newcastle, weighing caravans and vehicles. Apart from caravans and vehicles, we also do boats. We do four-wheel drives. We've done trade vehicles, I've done mine vehicles, a bus, lots of camper trailers and boats, and I've done some boxes and other things as well. We started 2 years ago, and although we've weighed all those other things, our main focus is caravan weighing. We've weighed well over 1,000 vehicles now, and in that we've weighed more than 370 caravan and vehicle combinations. When we weigh, and I'll get into more detail, a vehicle with a weight distribution hitch, we actually weigh the vehicle without it attached, and then we weigh it with it attached so we can actually tell the difference. But I'll explain that further later. So thank you for joining Checkweight and myself on this webinar. It'll go for about 30 or 40 minutes, so hopefully you enjoy it. If you have to leave, you will get an email and you will be able to rejoin, but you can't actually pause this webinar. So what are we covering in today's webinar? As I said, it's weight distribution hitches. And at the end, I will tell you about our online course. So if you want to go to that extra level and know everything about caravan weights, stay to the end of the webinar and I'll explain about our online course, which explains pretty well everything you need to know about caravan weights. If you don't want to buy the course, which I highly recommend, of course, I will give you a reward for staying to the end of the webinar, and it'll give you a link to our free report on caravan weight acronyms. So we'll get stuck straight into it. So what are weight distribution hitches? Well, in essence, a weight distribution hitch distributes weight from the rear axle of the vehicle to the front axle of the vehicle. And they do that by tightening up the loose point or the coupling with tension. And it's not the greatest explanation on how they do it, but I'm going to say that it's like a torque wrench. So what they're not, a lot of people will call them levelers. I think this is actually very misleading, although some products do market themselves as levelers. A weight distribution hitch is about distributing weight. That's their main focus. The fact that the vehicle is more level post using a weight distribution hitch is a byproduct of what they do. It's not what their purpose is. That's my belief, and that's the way. I see too many people putting weight distribution hitches on to level the vehicle without actually realising the pros and the cons of what they're doing. They're not sway bars. No, they're not sway bars, although a lot of people do refer to them as sway bars. And there is some weight distribution hitches that have sway bars incorporated into them. They're a very small minority of what we're talking about. Again, this is a little bit misleading because anti-sway, or the fact that it stops sway, is a byproduct of what they do. It's not what they do. If your caravan is swaying, putting a weight distribution hitch on may not help that, because if the caravan is unbalanced or overweight, or the weight is in the wrong place, a weight distribution hitch isn't going to fix that problem. It's going to mask that problem. A weight distribution hitch is primarily concerned on correcting the vehicle's weight. So when they put weight from the rear to the front axle, gives you better steering, better front wheel braking. So anti-sway, again, is a byproduct of what they do. It's not what they do. What they are not, well, they're not a one-size-fits-all. So just because I've got a Land Cruiser with a 19-foot Jayco and I use a weight distribution hitch doesn't mean you do. Or just because you don't doesn't mean I shouldn't either. So it really depends on the individual circumstances. So they're not a one-size-fits-all product. They're not a solution to overloaded vehicles and caravans. I've seen a lot of people who have been sold a weight distribution hitch, and bear in mind they're $600 to $800, $900. That because they've complained about caravan sway, and they say put a weight distribution hitch on, that'll fix it. No, it just masks the problem. Because when I weigh the vehicle, I find out that it's not balanced. They've got too much weight on the rear axle, too much weight on the back of the caravan. So fix the problem, not the symptom. They're not a set and forget item. You just can't attach them and drive all day and then take them off when you get home. They're not okay for every vehicle or setup. I've got a picture of Isuzu here. Up until the 2021, I believe, Isuzu did not recommend the fitting of a weight distribution hitch, even though you'll see in a lot of magazines and videos D-Maxes with weight distribution hitches on promoting them. It's in the owner's manual. And if you use one and something breaks, you could void your warranty or even your insurance by using one. So check your owner's manual that they are okay to use. So we'll go a little bit more on what they do and how they do it. So this is my simplistic explanation. And I've been criticised by a few people for this, but I deal with people every day and they're not engineers and they're not physicists. And I'm not an engineer either. So the way I like to explain it is think of a torque wrench being applied to the rear axle of the vehicle, which then moves the weight from the rear axle to the front axle of the vehicle. That's what they do. They do that by tightening up the relationship between the caravan and the vehicle. There is other, better, more complicated explanations out there, but I find if you try to use those, people's eyes glaze over. So this is a nice, simple explanation. As I said, it's not the best one, but it's probably pretty good if you're not an engineer or have a degree in physics. And they do that. We've got a graphic here. We've got a caravan at the top end here in the vehicle. We've got a lot of weight on the tow ball, a lot of weight on the rear axle. So we've got our front axle. Now, this is probably a little bit exaggerated, but I have seen vans like this and vehicles like this. So if you think tightening this coupling up, they put a torque wrench on the vehicle and it's pushing the weight forward. So in a perfect world, you get the vehicle level. And that's why some people call them levelers. They have leveled the vehicle, but it's not what they do. It's the byproduct of what they do. Okay, so this is a picture of a weight distribution hitch. They do that by having these bars and the chains, and this is attaches to the drawbar of the caravan. This is on your tow bar of the vehicle. So it's tightening up that whole thing. And here is a picture of one connected. We've got the bars and the chains, and you can adapt and change the amount of tension by varying the links on the on this chain. You can go too tight and transfer more weight, or you can go too loose and not actually transfer any weight. And I have actually seen that where I've weighed a vehicle and a caravan, and we've weighed it without and with, and there's been no change. So now I'm going to show you some real life examples. I think we've got three that we'll look at where we actually weighed it. So first of all, I'll explain how we weigh a vehicle. So check weight, we have 4 individual weigh pads. These weigh pads are wirelessly connected to a controller, which is in the vehicle, so we've got no messy wires, and they can do up to 10 tonne each wheel. So what we do when we've got a weight distribution hitch, we've got the caravan hitched up, the owner drives on. When we weigh, we generally have the vehicle fully loaded with fuel, passengers, and obviously hitched up to the caravan. So we drive the vehicle on, we get a reading, we back off, the owner hooks up the weight distribution hitch, and then we drive on and we weigh the vehicle again. Now, because we've got 4 individual weigh pads, we get each wheel weight, we can just add it up and get a front axle, a rear axle, and we can get side to side. Now, most weigh bridges, I know there is some weigh bridges out there where you can actually do axle weights, but most weigh bridges for vehicles and caravans won't give you individual weights on your front and rear axle. And certainly most weigh bridges won't do side to side. So this is the first reading. I've linked out the rego there. So this is without the weight distribution hitch. We had 1320 on the front axle and 1700 on the rear axle. So we then weighed it with the weight distribution hitch attached. You can see this 3 minutes later. Okay, we've got 1390 on the front axle and 16 on the rear. So we've changed the weight from 1700 to 1600 on the rear. So we've reduced it by 100, and we've got 70 kilos more on the front axle. So the smart maths people out there will say, well, where's the other 30 k's gone? So if you look at the total of the vehicle, 3,020, we've changed that to 2,990. So we've actually transferred 30 kilos to the caravan weight. So when we're weighing, we always weigh with the caravan with the weight distribution hitch attached, so we're not losing any weight. Okay, so the vehicle weight, as I said, reduced by 30 kilos, so the caravan's gone up 30 kilos. So with no weight distribution hitch, we were 1320. Our gross axle weight rating for the Ford Ranger is 1480 on the front, so we're actually 160 under. Rear, 1700, 1850, so we're actually under 150. So with the weight distribution hitch attached, we're now under 90 kilograms on the front axle and under 250 kilograms on the rear axle. Now, one of the things you also notice is that this vehicle had a GVM of 3,200. If you add up your axle weights combined, that adds up to 3,330. So it's 130 kilos more than your maximum GVM. So you can't actually have a vehicle weigh at its maximum on the front and the rear axle, because then it'll be over its GVM. So with the weight distribution hitch attached, as I said, under 90 and under 250. So do we need the weight distribution hitch? Was it necessary on this vehicle? So on the first look, I would say no, because at the rear axle is actually 150 kilos under. So a weight distribution hitch, the idea is to put weight on the front axle and to reduce the amount of weight on the rear axle. So it's not actually that bad. However, this owner was going to put a canopy and would be putting more stuff in the back of the vehicle before he went on a big trip. So if he's adding a lot of weight to this back of this vehicle and adding it to the rear axle, he may decide to use it. My general recommendation would be that he, at that present time, didn't need it. Okay, so another example. This is a Land Cruiser that we weighed, and it weighed 1,400 on the front axle and 2,060 on the rear axle. With the weight distribution hitch attached, we had 1,470 on the front axle and 1,960 on the rear axle. So The gross axle weight rating for this vehicle is 1700 on the front and 1950 on the rear. So on the front axle, we're under 300 and over 110 on the rear axle. Now, I can hear most people saying, hey, yeah, man, that guy needs a weight distribution hitch. So what was the figures? With the weight distribution hitch attached, it was under 230 on the front axle and over 10 on the rear. So we've actually transferred, if we go back, 100 kilos to that rear. Okay, so it has made a massive difference. However, in this case, is a weight distribution hitch necessary? So most people would have said, yes, done the job. However, there's a bit of a problem. Because we weigh the vehicle, the caravan, and the tow ball, and the tow ball is actually accurate to half a kilo, I've got more information than what you have. So the answer is yes and no. The weight distribution hitch itself, if you look, the GVM on the vehicle is 3350. So we're actually 90 kilos over its GVM, and he didn't have his wife and a bit of luggage in the back of the vehicle. So the vehicle is actually too heavy right from the word go. So he's put the weight distribution hitch on to fix a problem with the vehicle, which it wasn't level. However, the real problem is that there's too much weight. So not only was the vehicle over, the caravan was also over, and the tow ball mass was 374 kilos. So 24 kilos over the maximum allowed of 350. And this is why I say putting a weight distribution hitch on to fix a level vehicle is only masking the problem. The problem is that this vehicle is overweight, the caravan was overweight, and the tow ball was too heavy. So if we fix the caravan weight and we fix the tow ball weight, we may not need the weight distribution hitch. So fix the problem, not the symptom. So this is a Ford Ranger. This is a little bit different, this one. Weighed with hooked up to the caravan. So we weighed this the vehicle the same. So this one weighed in at 3230 with 1400 on the front axle and 1830 on the rear axle. After using hitching the weight distribution hitch, we had 1460 on the front and 1740 on the rear. So the GAWR, that's the gross axle weight rating, is 1450 on the front and 1850 on the back. So with no weight distribution hitch, we're under 50 on the front and under 20 on the back. And there you can see that we're under both of those, but note we're 30 kilos over our GVM. I will say that this vehicle was fully loaded, two passengers, so there was nothing else to put in the vehicle. With the weight distribution hitch attached, we're now over 10 kilograms on the front axle, and we're under 90 on the rear axle. So in this case, is a weight distribution hitch necessary? So again, I would say maybe, but probably maybe not. And the reason I would say that is because I had extra information. The Caravan was over its ATM by 200 kilograms. The tow ball was actually too light for the weight of the Caravan. And as I said, there is no extra kilos or no room for extra in the vehicle. The weight distribution hitch is actually transferred 30 kilograms from the vehicle to the van, but the van's overweight, so we don't really want to add weight to the van. The owner said he felt safer with the weight distribution hitch on. I'm not sure why, because he's actually put too much weight on the front axle. Part of the problem I see is that we got too much weight on the rear axle. We don't have enough weight on the front axle. So your vehicle's like this. We have a maximum front axle and maximum rear axle, but we don't have a minimum front axle. So we're sort of guessing from that point of view. So if we've got too much weight on the rear, we assume that we need to get it to the front. But if you check out the vehicle, bull bar, lights, winch, everything at the front. The owner actually had a DO35 off-road hitch attached as well. So the idea of an off-road hitch is it gives you flexibility on the coupling. When you put a weight distribution hitch, you're fixing that and making it solid. So one's negating the other. Now, the other thing with a weight distribution hitch, they actually weigh quite a bit. So you're actually adding weight to the vehicle and the caravan and adding weight to the combination. And that weight is then transferred to the vehicle and to the rear axle. So if you add 20 kilos to the rear axle or to the tow ball, you're actually adding 30 to the rear axle. So you're actually adding more weight so that you can transfer weight from the rear axle. Okay, so did this guy need it? I would say no. I think we need to fix the caravan. We need to fix the weight of the caravan. We needed to offload any unnecessary items in the vehicle. And we need to reduce the weight of the vehicle and especially the weight over the rear axle. And then we don't need a weight distribution hitch. So you save another 20 or 30 kilos by removing that. So we'll go through we hope through those examples give you a bit of an idea of why I think it's extremely important that you actually weigh your vehicle before putting on a weight distribution hitch. I've seen many, many examples of people who have been sold a weight distribution hitch and paid that $600 or $800 and didn't need it, where actually putting the weight of the caravan and loading the vehicle correctly could have fixed the problem. Okay, so some of the myths about weight distribution hitch. You see it on Facebook groups all the time is they change the tow ball weight or they reduce the tow ball weight. So they don't. They don't change it. And to prove it, I went to Hayman Reese, their website. Did you know when using a weight distribution system, the tow ball weight remains the same? Okay, so they're saying it stays the same, so it doesn't change it. So one Furphy or one myth out of the road. The other one is you can just leave them on. No, you can't just hitch it up when you leave home and take it off when you get back home. You shouldn't have them on rough roads. You shouldn't have them when you're driving over speed humps, i.e. when you're to your caravan park or in that dirt rough road before you get to a national park or a camping ground. You should take them off before reversing. You've tightened this right up. So when you're going over bends and you can't have this pressure. And so eventually something's going to break. And usually it's where the tow bar attaches to the chassis. They're suitable for all vehicles. So some manufacturers actually say no. And I mentioned that before, that Isuzu said you can't use them. But I can't tell you how many MUXs and D-Maxs I've weighed, even though it's recommended that they don't have a weight distribution hitch, that I've weighed, that people have put them on because somebody on Facebook or somebody sold them one to fix a problem that could have been fixed otherwise. So check your owner's manual. Otherwise, you could void your warranty, and not only your warranty, you could void your insurance if you have an accident. They don't fix the problems of an overloaded or badly loaded caravan. I think this is the biggest problem, is that people have got sway. So the first thing that everybody recommends is, I'll get a weight distribution hitch. It's masking the problem and it's treating the symptom, not the problem. So if the problem is an overbalanced or out of balance caravan and or vehicle, getting a weight distribution hitch isn't going to fix that. It just will probably delay the inevitable. That said, I've weighed many vehicles that actually need a weight distribution hitch. And I've had a few that I've actually recommended that they look into them. But I've also weighed a lot of vehicles that don't need them and they are using them. So one of the other things I see a lot on Facebook groups is, I've got a Jeep and they recommend it, so therefore a weight distribution hitch must be a good thing. No, that's not why Jeep recommended a weight distribution hitch. Why do you think that Jeep recommended a weight distribution hitch if towing a caravan more than 2,200? And it was a question I asked myself when I first started weighing Jeeps and weight distribution hitches. And I thought, well, why did Jeep recommend it when other manufacturers leave it open or say no? And I soon realised after weighing a few Jeep Grand Cherokees is that they have a very poor payload and they have a very poor gross axle weight rating on the rear axle. So if you've got a really poor gross axle weight rating on the rear and you're lumping a heap of weight onto the toe ball, which is then transferring to the rear axle, and it's around 150%. So if you put a 300 kilo toe ball weight onto your vehicle, that equates to around 450 on your rear axle. So if you've got a low rating on your rear axle, then Jeep are recommending a weight distribution hitch to transfer some of that weight to the front axle. So that's why they recommend it for heavy caravans, because otherwise they would not be able to tow the 3.5 ton tow that they love to recommend. And as an aside, I'm not a big fan of Jeeps. I think they're a nice, comfortable, powerful vehicle, and they can probably tow 3.5 ton in that regards. However, if you're towing 3.5 ton caravan or a 3 ton caravan even, you will find that you will quickly run out of payload and quickly exceed your gross axle weight rating on the rear, especially if you put stuff in the vehicle. So in summary, look, make up your own mind. Use this webinar and do your own search, but make sure you understand what they do and how they do it and why they do it. Make sure you need one. Weigh your van, if you can, fully hooked up and loaded and hooked up to the caravan. And without the weight distribution hitch, to know what your rear and front axle weight is before you go and spend that money. As I've said, I've had plenty of examples where people have been sold a weight distribution hitch to solve a weight problem. And one comes to mind in Port Macquarie. It was a Colorado and a new age van, sold a weight distribution hitch to solve sway. They didn't really still feel comfortable. When I weighed it, vehicle was fine. The caravan had too much weight on the rear axle and too much weight on one side. So the out of balance caravan was causing the sway. A weight distribution hitch is never going to fix that. There's a number of things that can cause sway, balance, but it's also can be tyre pressure. It can be just the design of the caravan. Can be the vehicle in that you've got too much weight on the rear axle. So a weight distribution hitch isn't a fix-all. So make sure you understand the pros and the cons. The cons being that you have to put them on. There's a lot of tension there. They're actually quite dangerous in some circumstances. And you need to be quite strong to put them on and off. And it takes time to do it properly and do it safely. So thank you for watching this webinar. Now I will take the opportunity. I hope you have enjoyed it and learnt something and take some information away. I am going to sell you something, but it's not a weight distribution hitch. Check Weight has weighed, as I said, 370 odd combinations over the last 2 years. We can't help everybody, although we have got plans to franchise the business. My goal is to help as many people as possible understand and make sense of caravan weights. So to that end, a few months ago, we created a online course where you can actually learn about caravan weights. So this online course has about 35 minutes of video, and it's not a webinar. It's me and my wife Jules out with 2 caravans, professionally filmed and professionally edited, and it goes through and quickly summarizes everything you need to know about caravan weights. So we go through all the caravan weight acronyms. We go through tear, towing capacity, payload. I go through the importance of axle weights, which I've mentioned today, and we go through caravan balance. We also talk about vehicle balance. We talk about compliance plates, weight distribution hitches very briefly, and how sensitive your tow ball is to weight transfer. So the video is backed up by 17 PDFs, which you can download and save to your computer and print. The videos are available online for you to watch 6 months, so you can watch them over and over. The PDFs, obviously, once you've printed them or saved them, you've got them forever. You also get to join our Facebook group, which is private, where you can ask any weight-related questions. And unlike public groups, you won't get 100 different answers. You'll get one correct answer. So how much is all this? Well, it's only $97. Yep, $97. If you get fined for being overweight in New South Wales, it can be as much as $438 and lose 3 points. And when you think how much you've got invested in your vehicle and your caravan, $97 is a very small amount to invest in making sure that you understand your weights and being safe. And if you're also, apart from being fined, if you have an accident and it's deemed by the police or an insurance company that being overweight contributed to that accident, you could actually lose your insurance, and that could be very expensive. But because you've stuck this webinar right out to the end, I'll reward you with a Friends of Check Weight bonus. So if you purchase the course within the next 2 hours, we'll give you $20 off. That's right, $20 off, and the course will only cost you $77. And did I mention there's a 100% money back guarantee? There is a few conditions on the guarantee. One is that you watch all the videos, download all the PDFs, and you can tell me honestly that you didn't learn anything. I'll refund your money in full. So if you want to buy the course and get that $20 discount for the next 2 hours, we have a button here below the webinar. Click on that button, you'll go through to our landing page where you can read a little bit more about the course and click the purchase button. So do that right now. If you buy the course, click on buy now for $97 because that's the recommended normal price. But you'll need this code, FRIENDS77. You have to click on the discount, apply coupon, you get the coupon code, put it in, 77, and then you will get a $20 discount and you'll get the course for $77. Just put in your credit card, it's secure through Stripe, and you'll get the details of the course automatically emailed to you, and you can start watching. I say to everybody that you can actually get this and understand caravan weights within a day. So that's how easy it is. If you don't really want to spend $77 on saving yourself from possible accidents or possibly being fined or just getting to know exactly all about caravan weights from a guy who actually knows what he's talking about rather than Facebook groups, please at least go to our website, checkweight.com.au, have a look at our blog articles, have a look at our website, and there's a little button at the top, up the side, top right. Click on that and it will say free report. Click on that, put in your email address and phone number, and a PDF of all the weight acronyms will be emailed to you. And that is a PDF, so you can print that or save it. And it's not blurry like some of the Facebook images that people put on Facebook groups. So thank you again. My name is Jeff from Checkweight. Please go down to the bottom here, click on the button and buy our course. I hope you've really enjoyed this webinar on weight distribution hitches. If you've got any questions, please put them in and I will reply to you when I get a chance via email. Once again, buy the course. Thanks, have a great day and travel safe.